You wanna play with this? You wanna play? Ready? All right, welcome back to another edition of Music Monday from the podcast Nurture the Mind. I am your host, Cole Poots, and we have yet again another music reaction. Here we go. 2 weeks in a row of getting back to music reactions, and I think that this should be a good one. So we are getting back into Sleep Token, my friends, because they are coming out with an album on May 9th of this year, and they just dropped a single called Emergence, 6 minutes and 26 seconds. So it's gonna be a lengthy one, but I'm ready for it. You know, that's a lot of their songs, I feel like, kind of go with that structure, at least the ones that I've listened to on the channel. Every time I've listened to their music, it's been a phenomenal experience. I will say, going into this single, for people that have seen my reactions on this band, I'm still very limited in my exposure to Sleep Token. I've only listened to, I think, 4 or 5 songs off of their last album, Take Me Back to Eden. So I haven't listened to that entire project. I'm not sure if that matters going into this one. I could be wrong. You know, maybe there are some similar themes from that old album that are gonna see the light of day in this album. So you guys can fill me in on that front if you guys have any knowledge or information that I'm not privy to. I will say, with this new album, it's called Even In Arcadia. So far, I love the album cover. I don't know what type, is that a flamingo? It looks like a flamingo at the bottom that has no color on it. It's like black and white. And then the scenery, the background behind it is like all of these pink trees or something. So it's like the color in the trees is pink and it's stripped from the flamingo, which should be the pink color. So I wonder what that is a calling to, what that is supposed to signal. Everybody is gonna interpret things a little bit differently. Again, maybe heavy Sleep Token fans might have some, background information that I'm not privy to, because I like this band, but I can't say I'm an expert on Sleep Token because I haven't listened to all their stuff and I haven't listened to it religiously. All I can say is every time I have listened to Sleep Token, I have enjoyed it thoroughly. So I am very excited for this music reaction. I can't wait to hear what this sounds like and to see what Vessel talks about. What is the sound, What is going on this first single that is ultimately going to lead us into the album Even in Arcadia. So I'm not going to talk anymore. Let's just get into it. It is the single from Sleep Token, and it is called Emergence. Here we fucking go. Whoa.
Well, you were late in verse, living on a promised word. Well, I am the rose you relinquished again. You and I are down at first in another world I had, but I have a feeling we're close to the end. So come on, come
What is that sound? Come on. That was beautiful, that transition. Can't forget the Sleep Token, man. They bend all of the genres and put them together in a melting pot. I love the pitching on his vocals. Oh, hear that percussion? That is a beautiful line, and you might be the one to take away the pain and let my mind go quiet. Holy fuck, that hits. That is heavy, heavy lyricism, penmanship, writing by Vessel. Dear God, dude. Oh my God. These instrumentals from Sleep Token are always on par. Is that like jazz now? What instrument is that? Unreal. What a subtle outro. what a proper way to close a song. A magnificent song at that. All right, that was Emergence from Sleep Token off of the new and upcoming album, Even in Arcadia. God, that was a pleasant experience. I never get tired of listening to these guys, their music, their catalog. I feel like they always deliver, they always bring heat. It's so pleasant to the ears because there's a lot of twists and turns. It's very, in their music, it is very unpredictable, which you can't say the same for a lot of music that exists today. A lot of the shit that becomes watered down that you hear on the radio all the time. A lot of artists, musicians operating in this certain formula because they know that it's going to get plays. They know it's going to get downloads and streams. A band like this, you know, you got to take risks. You got to try and blend things together. You're not always sure if it's going to work out, but they do it effortlessly. They do it seamlessly. They do it so well that it all meshes together and it all makes sense as they transition through these different sounds, these different instruments, these different genres. I'm not entirely sure what the whole idea was that Vessel is trying to communicate. I guess like some things that I caught on, obviously the name being Emergence, you know, that's the title of the track. And then he says at some point, like, come on now. Something about underneath the way that you were, it's time for you to embrace this emergence or something. So immediately what I thought of is like taking away these old layers of ourselves that aren't useful anymore. Like I think of this analogy that Jordan Peterson has talked about so many times over the years in his lectures, in his YouTube videos. Maybe I can find a clip and I can put it in the description below for you guys to see. But he was describing, you know, the human experience and us as humans, how we evolve and transform. And, you know, that's one of the main things that we're all concerned with while we're on this earth. That's what we're called to do, is to constantly grow. And if you don't do that on a regular, ongoing basis throughout the course of your life, then you feel very unsatisfied, depressed, anxious, all of the above, this, that, and the other. But his premise is that for humans, we are kind of synonymous with nature and trees. So like there's this common practice in nature. I think park rangers will do it where you have, like, say it's in the winter, I believe, or something, and you have all these trees that don't have leaves on them. And there's dead brush, there's dead limbs and branches and whatnot. What do these people do? What practice do they go to? They light certain things in nature, in the woods, on fire so it can burn all of the dead wood, so all of the healthy, new wood, new growth, all of those things can sort of emerge. I don't know if that's what he's talking about. I'm saying like that's how I interpreted some of the lyrics. That's what it made me think of, is like, hey, come on now. I forget exactly the set of lyrics, so I'd have to go to Genius and read them, and maybe I will do that just so we can get context for this reaction for this situation. So let's go Genius lyrics. Okay, so I think I was referring to the chorus, so it's like, so come on, out from underneath who you were, come on now, you know that it's time to emerge. Let's see what Genius has said here. He's begging, why'd you go away? He's begging sleep to change. He knows she has the capacity to love him back, but is too attached to who she used to be, or too stubborn. He wants her to emerge like a butterfly from a cocoon. Okay, so maybe he is talking about a particular person and not making it so broad necessarily. But the idea that I had in my head kind of fits that definition, if that is what he's talking about, is that we are all called throughout many times, many timestamps throughout our lives, we are called to change, to grow, to evolve, to transform. And there are unfortunately a lot of people that don't rise to that calling and they continue to stay the same. I tell people this all the time, anytime it comes up in conversations. I'm like, somebody might ask you, Cole, like, what would be your biggest regret? What would be your biggest fear, once you get to the course or the end of your life? What is one of the biggest fears that you could have? And my answer has always been, for a long period of time, that I think the biggest fear that I hold inside of me is, if I were to get to the end of my days, I was on my deathbed and I sat there and I thought about all of the things that I could have done or changed and I decided not to do. My fear is like living with regret, especially when you get older and you're closing out the final chapter of your life. So many people are afraid to take risks. People are afraid of failure. I know that that's something that I've struggled with over the course of my life, is being afraid to fail. So I just wouldn't take any steps, because it's like, it's kind of expected that if you were going to venture off into a new domain or try something new, of course you're going to make some mistakes. Of course you're going to make some missteps. It's territory that you don't know. That's why it's called the unknown. But that doesn't mean that you get to stay inside of your comfort zone and not go towards the calling or what life is challenging you to do. Because then at that point, if you don't do what you're called to do, you become so much less of what you actually could be. You never truly rise to your fullest potential or capabilities. And it's sad. There are so many people that fit into that definition of what I'm talking about. So like, that's my biggest fear, is the fear of regret. And I think it's a really good fear to have. I think it's a healthy fear to have, because it's something that I constantly think about. And if I'm constantly thinking about it, then I constantly have to ask myself, like, am I doing enough? Am I doing enough to change my circumstances? Am I getting outside of my comfort zone? Am I taking enough risks? Maybe not like crazy risks, but definitely like calculated risks. Sometimes you could take a risk that's just like so far out there, maybe that's not the right decision. Maybe that's not a healthy decision, but certainly taking calculated risks that you've thought out and hold the potential to net a really good result, or, a positive result. Those are the risks that I'm talking about. But yeah, so I think I was spot on in my analysis of what he's talking about. I'm sure there are more intricacies that maybe I missed just because it's a first listen. There's no way that I'm going to grab everything. There's so many different sounds pulling me in different directions. At times you're not always paying attention to lyrics. I was more so just vibing, man, like vibing with the sound. I can't say anything negative about their instrumentals because they're so complex. They're so deep. I mean, it literally, like, listening to Sleep Token makes me feel like I'm going into some type of trance. It probably would be more beneficial for me for the entirety of that song to just close my eyes and drift and then come back at the end. But I know for video purposes, reaction purposes, review purposes, probably not the most helpful. Like, I want to have my eyes open. I want to make comments at certain times when I feel or deem that it's necessary. But yeah, I mean, their music is sort of, the type of music that puts you in a trance, that kind of cast a spell over you, but in a very good way. It's always a pleasant experience listening to these guys. I think this is a banger of a single to open up this album. I mean, could you say when they do like the first transition in the song, it's like, it kind of feels like Vessel is rapping or flowing a little bit. Again, I would like to know what all instruments that they used. I caught the piano in the beginning. You hear the percussion. Obviously guitars and whatnot. At the end, it seemed a little bit more jazz influence, but I wasn't particularly keen on picking up whatever that instrument was. Like, was it like a tube or something, or like a horn? Like, I really don't know. So maybe somebody can fill me in the comments. But Yeah, that was a beautiful song. Like I said, a great way to open up this album, and it just makes me more excited and curious for what this is all going to sound like. I feel like I should probably go listen to their last album and just get through it to be prepared for whenever this album gets released. But yeah, this is an amazing group of individuals, amazing group of musicians and artists that make up, the genetic makeup of this band. I'm starting to really hold this group in high regard, to some of my favorite bands, artists, musicians of all time. I literally have yet to listen to one of their songs and think, oh, like this is a fucking dud. So maybe it's not even entirely possible that they could put out bad music. That's probably too much of a stretch, because I think even a lot of us could admit, for some of our favorite artists, they've put out projects before or songs before that, maybe we still like but don't really care for as much as some of their other projects or their other songs. I know, like, there's even songs with Mac Miller, my favorite musician, artist of all time. I like most of his stuff. There are some songs, I'm not gonna say like it's dog shit or anything, but just songs of his that's like, yeah, I wasn't really vibing with that one. I'm not sure if I'll go back to it all that much, but a majority of his shit I fucking love. And I think Sleep Token is starting to, for me personally, enter into that category in that same conversation. So, they put out their last album in 2023, so it's only been 2 years and now we're getting a new one. I just want to know, like, are we going to evolve the sound that they've done before in the past? I feel like it's really hard for them because they've always been super experimental with the structure of their songs and the instrumentals in their songs. When you're like highly creative like that, you've made so many different sounding, creative things. It's like, man, how do you keep doing that in the future? I think it gets harder and harder and harder the more and more that you've done it, because you're like, man, like, we've tested all these ideas. How do we continue to do things differently? It's kind of analogous to this whole conversation that we're having about this song, is how do you constantly change, yourself? How don't ever stay complacent or too content to where, you're not growing, you're not evolving. I feel like as you get older, at least in my experience, it is something that you have to do on a conscious level. I feel like when you're younger, everything is changing around you all the time, that you really don't even have to try that hard to go through these changes. But I feel like when you get older and you get stuck in your routine and, the mundane nature of life, it really becomes, all right, like, I have to make a diligent effort if I want to change this set of circumstances, or if I want to be different in this area. And certainly, we live in a world of the internet and this digital age. You get on YouTube and you see all these self-improvement gurus. I mean, it's always there. It's always at your fingertips. I think some of that stuff is valuable. And I'm going to kind of contradict what I was saying before. Don't be hyper obsessed with those things that you constantly feel like every day I got to be changing. I mean, be working towards that change, but also be happy with where you're at and how far you've come. I think there's a duality to everything in life. I think there's, nuance to everything in life. It's never black and white sort of thinking. It's definitely a world of color, but listening to this group makes my mind feel like a world full of color. And like I said before, you looking at their album cover, world full of color, one color, pink, and then the rest of it is, like a black, gray, white. So yeah, I mean, I wonder what that significance is of having an album artwork like that. I've said so many times on the channel, and I will continue to repeat it until the day that I die, but one thing, just advice for artists, musicians, bands, group, like, I'm not saying everybody is exactly like me, but I think a lot of people that appreciate music would agree with this, is that, a lot of times, if you can master the album artwork, the cover of the album with color or whatever it may be, just something, an image that's very intriguing, I mean, you will lock people in just based on that alone. Because I really, truly believe investing in that, pouring into that, putting meaning and purpose behind why you chose this album cover, this album artwork, I think it can tell the person who's about to listen to it a lot about what you're about to hear, like what the sound is going to be, what the themes are going to be. I mean, you're not going to get all of that from an album cover, but I think once you get through the music, like the whole album, and then you go back and you look at the album cover, the album artwork, you're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. I understand why they chose this particular cover for the album. So yeah, I think Sleep Token does a lot of different things very, very well, and I am excited for this album. I think it was last year they actually came, because I live in Indianola, Iowa. They came to Waukee, Iowa, which is not far from me. It's like 30 or 40 minutes. They came to this venue that's relatively new. I think it's called Vibrant Music Hall, and my best friend Dakota, he went to go see him live and in person. I saw a Snapchat story and I was like, dude, I didn't even know that they were coming. Like, if I would have known, I would have came with you, man. Like, I want to see Sleep Token live and in person. Even though I haven't listened to all of their music, I don't know all of their songs, I would love to see them perform. I've heard not only are they great musicians, but they're great playing live. You know, not every artist or musician can pull that off. You know, they might have albums, studio albums that sound really good when you're listening to it, you know, in your car on a speaker system and headphones, but then they're like dog shit live. It seems like these guys have mastered both, you know, like they are the real deal. So yeah, man, I don't think there's much else to say about this song. I would just say that, man, that was a great experience, a great song to listen to, and it will be in heavy rotation on my playlist moving forward to get myself prepped and ready for their new album. Guys, that is the reaction, that is review. I am gonna hop off here, and as always, as we close this out, I ask that you do 4 things. You don't have to do all 4, but please do one of the 4 things. So number 1 would be subscribe to the channel if you are not already. Number 2, like the video. Number 3, comment in the comment section below. Or 4, share this message, share this video, share this podcast on social media, or you can talk about it with other people in person. Basically, my thing is like, I come over here, I invest and I pour into this, and I'm passionate about music and doing these reactions. So if you feel like I gave you guys good content, if you feel like it was valuable, entertaining, if it wasn't a waste of your time, just please do one of those 4 things. Doing one of those 4 things is tremendously helpful in the growth of this channel and just getting my message and my videos out there in front of more eyeballs. And that's all that I ask. That's the only exchange that we have on here, is that if I do a good job, then you guys help me out and spread the word, spread the message. So thank you guys for once again coming over and hanging out. That was fun. That was an enjoyable experience, and I can't wait for more Sleep Token. So until then, when it comes out in May, we might get some other singles. Who knows? Maybe at least one more. But nonetheless, just knowing that in a few months we're going to have a whole new Sleep Token project is pretty damn cool. So just wait for that, guys. It's coming up over the horizon. Anyways, take care, my friends. I will see you next week on the next video. All right, bye-bye.